Bob Woodward and Robert Costa, authors of the explosive new book, Peril. This is their first broadcast interview since their book rocked Washington and the world with its headlines. Here's a look at the highlights. According to Woodward and Costa, President Trump's top military advisor, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley, called China just 4 days before the election, worried that China thought President Trump would launch a military strike. He told his Chinese counterpart, "The American government is stable. If we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time." Milley also called China 2 days after the January 6th Capitol riot, telling the Chinese general, quote, "Things may look unsteady, but that's the nature of democracy. We are 100% steady." Milley never told the president about those calls, and Trump now says that if the account about Milley is correct, then I assume he would be tried for treason. While some have called on President Biden to fire Milley, Biden is standing by him.
I have great confidence in General Milley.
Former Joint Chiefs Chairman Admiral Mike Mullen told Marathon this week, calls like these are not unusual.
I'm encouraged the fact that the line of communication is there.
And on Friday, Milley, who is scheduled to testify next week before the Senate Armed Services Committee, told the Associated Press that calls like those are, quote, routine, adding, "I think it's best that I reserve my comments on the record until I do that in front of the lawmakers who have the lawful responsibility to oversee the U.S. military." And we are joined now by Bob Woodward and Robert Costa of the Washington Post. Welcome to you both. And Bob, let me begin with you. It's not just the former president who's using the word treason. Senator Marco Rubio talked about treasonous behavior in his statement as well. As you reported on Milley's talks with the Chinese, did you think you were documenting treasonous behavior?
No, not at all. I guess the best way to answer that is to tell you what we found. 2 days after the insurrection at the Capitol was a moment of maximum tension. And Milley talked with back channel, top secret back channel.
But others were on the calls, right?
Pardon?
Others were on the
I don't know whether others were on the call. What we do know and report, which I think is significant here, after the call, he then gave a full briefing to 4 people. Gina Haspel, the CIA director, said to her, "Watch everything." 360. Talked to Paul Nagasani, who heads a national security agency which does worldwide eavesdropping, and said, "Needles up," which is an expression, listen everywhere. He talked to the chiefs, the head of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and said, full time, watch everything. And then he called the admiral in charge of the region in the Pacific and asked him to cancel operations that the Chinese might see as somewhat provocative. And so there's nothing hidden about this. It is a top secret back channel.
We also know, Robert, that other officials were making calls to their Chinese counterparts as well. But were the Chinese right to be so concerned? Is there any evidence that President Trump was actually contemplating some kind of military action?
Based on our reporting, Chairman Milley did not believe President Trump wanted to go to war, but it was his assessment, his conclusion, based on intelligence and other briefings, that the Chinese were highly alarmed about what happened on January 6th. What Chairman Milley was trying to do, as we show in the book, is contain a national security emergency. And as Bob said, he was reading people in. While these calls with General Lee were held on a top secret back channel, they were not secret. This was not someone who was working in isolation. He was reading people in the national security emergency. He wasn't going rogue. He was not going rogue. He was reading people in throughout the national security and military community, trying to contain a situation and a president he believed was in serious mental decline.
And Bob, we also see in the book, it seems like former Vice President Pence was struggling more with this decision on what to do with certifying the electors than we might have believed.
Yes, we're able to chart exactly the road Pence walked, and it's not, he's trying to ride both horses, and that is do his constitutional duty, but also keep the avenues to Trump open. And it is step by step in the book, and you see in a way Pence is with Trump. No, he's going to do the right constitutional thing. Now remember, in the context of all of this, this is a national security crisis for the country, and that's what has been overlooked in this. Bob and I had months to do the reporting, and you see what on the Pence issue, which you ask about, this really was a question of the legitimacy of the American presidency. And if Pence had gone up there in Congress and said, look, I can't decide whose votes to count, we would have had.
Well, it's so hard to contemplate because he really couldn't do it, but I know he was struggling with this.
He talked to former Vice President Dan Quayle, of all people, along with his lawyers and his advisors, trying to find a way about what to do. We show the agony, the uncertainty Vice President Pence had. There's this one scene in the book that still stays with me in our reporting. He's with President Trump on January 5th, hours before the insurrection, and President Trump has this temptation of power. Wouldn't it be cool, he says to Vice President Pence, to have the power to decertify an election?
Cool. That's one word for it. You also cover President Biden in the book, including the fallout from my conversation with President Biden back in the spring about Vladimir Putin. So you know Vladimir Putin. You think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So what price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
Putin was not happy.
No, I mean, that was stunning. We were able to get details of what happened in, I think it was April, so just several months ago, between Putin and Biden. And Putin starts out, I'm not happy you called me a killer. And Biden gets very defensive and said, in your interview, well, it was on another subject and my answer was not premeditated. Well, of course, it's an open interview. You can ask any question. And you see, and we were able to work through what's the Biden-Putin relationship, which is critical to the United States.
It clearly is. We only have a few seconds left. Final words of the book, Peril remains. What is the peril?
President Trump's conduct alarmed everyone, nearly everyone, in his inner circle, his administration. He could very well run for president in 2024. And this system, the American system, tested all the way to the brink, could be tested again.
And you guys have done it again. Peril, Bob Woodward, Robert Costa, is out right now.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.